Okay, we'll start with this. Well, I'm sure that most of you have heard by now that there's more trouble brewing in paradise when it comes to Ryan Garcia and Goldenboy Promotions. Per tweet from Michael Benson, Ryan Garcia on Oscar de la Coca. Ow! I don't have to talk to him. He don't have to talk to me. He can give me shit money. Just know I'll never fucking like you again. And I would tell young kids to never sign with them. In yet another seething comment per tweet from Michael Benson, if they don't think I'm the next world champ, the next big fighter, prove it. Let me go. Just free release right now and let me be. Who do you want to hold back somebody? Who's not gonna be shit? Don't hold me back. Release me.
Get him out of there.
No, wait.
Per tweet from Mike Kofinger, Ryan Garcia is battling for bigger purses and tougher in-ring competition, and once again, he's at odds with Oscar de la Hoya. During a sit-down with the Athletic Box, the rising star opened up about his fractured relationship with Oscar, Goldenboy Promotions, and more. This is just my reaction to this recent development, to this recent news about the spat between Ryan and his promoters, his handlers. You know, very recently, Oscar de la Coca was
Talking about Ryan Garcia.
expressing apprehension at the prospect of Ryan potentially fighting Jorge Linares. Jorge Linares, who's all booked up to fight Javier Fortuna now, where, you know, the plan was to have him fight Ryan Garcia.
Before.
Things didn't go to plan. COVID-19 has a lot to do with that, but better still, you'll notice that Oscar de la Coca, so many words stated, that he's not sure that Ryan Garcia is ready for the likes of a Jorge Linares, and one is left to wonder, what exactly did Oscar hope to accomplish by making those kinds of statements about what is his own fighter publicly? That you're at liberty to feel that way behind closed doors. Underneath it all, that might be what you really think. But to make these statements publicly,
What's he trying to achieve?
to the public that you're actually hoping to appeal to, the public that you're trying to sell this fighter to, what exactly were you hoping to achieve by making those statements to the boxing community at large? Are you trying to affect their perception of Ryan Garcia? Are you trying to badmouth this kid to the same boxing community you're trying to sell him to?
That's fucking stupid.
It doesn't take Dr. Ruth or Dr. Phil to see that Ryan's relationship with Goldenboy is on the rocks, but carrying on the way they've been carrying on in full view of the public. You know, Ryan's a kid. He's going to do what kids do. He's going to act the way a kid would react. But Oscar should fucking know better.
Jesus Christ.
You're his fucking promoter, Oscar. How redundant is it for the guy's own promoter to badmouth him to the same fucking people he's hoping to sell him to? These bursts of microaggression from what are Ryan Garcia's promotional team.
It's a piss poor way to handle the situation.
You expect a petulant child to act like a petulant child. I mean, I don't think that Ryan Garcia is without blame here. I think he has his role to play in this fractured relationship. I don't think that Ryan himself is being realistic. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, and you've got all these purse demands, but you're not even a world champion yet. As it stands, you've just reached contender status. So all these gripes about what you're being paid as opposed to other fighters that are out there are arriving far too soon. Bottom line, I do think that Ryan is being a prima donna, but it's up to his handlers, it's up to his promotional team to smooth things out. I mean, that's your job, and what you're doing is playing into it.
Like a bunch of bumbling idiots.
And this ain't the face that we've seen of this. This has been going on for months. A couple of months ago, right before Ryan Garcia signed what was reported as the most lucrative deal ever signed for a prospect. My prospect. This is what was going on. This is just the kind of lovers' quarrel, the kind of spat that we saw play out in full view of public between Ryan Garcia and people over there at Goldenboy. And it seems that they haven't learned their lesson. It seems that they're back to square one. And then, like now, I think that Goldenboy Promotions is mismanaging the situation. Look, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. A fighter having gripes about what he's being paid, that's gonna happen sooner or later. But what you don't expect, these bursts of microaggression from that fighter's promoter, as that fighter's promoter has a vetted interest in that fighter. That fighter's success is their success. So surely you can see how it's counterintuitive for Oscar de la Hoya to make those kinds of statements publicly, even if that's what he really feels. You're not supposed to run around telling people that kind of stuff. And I think that that was an insight and a rather catty way, ribbing Ryan Garcia, taking a shot at him. And for what? You want this kid to start fighting to be released out of his contract? Is that what you want? You want to see him go over there to Top Rank? You want to see him go over there to Matchroom? You want to see him go over there to Premier Boxing Champions? Because they'd love to have him. When it was announced that Goldenboy's proposed July 4th card had fell apart, because Ryan Garcia wasn't going to be fighting, and that Virgil Ortiz would be headlining Goldenboy's next event.
Remember that?
The way that news was delivered by Goldenboy could have been interpreted as yet another shot at Ryan Garcia, who perhaps is being difficult, but it is their job to smooth things out. I mean, I don't think that Ryan's being the easiest guy to deal with. I don't. I do think he's being a prima donna. But Goldenboy, they just seem to be making the situation worse with this catty behavior, this back and forth between them and what is their own fighter. You take a shot at this kid when you announce that he's not going to be fighting on July 4th at a time when your relationship with him is on the rocks. You take another shot at him when you say that you don't think he's ready for Jorge Linares. Even though that was your original plan, wasn't it? Before COVID-19 hit, you were supposed to deliver that fight. Well, what are you trying to communicate about what is your fighter now? That he's not that good? News broke very recently that Ryan Garcia has accepted the Luke Campbell fight, which was a mandated fight, a fight that was ordered by the WBC. And I don't think that the people over there at Goldenboy are responsible for that. Quite honestly, I think that is as a result of Eddie Hearn's wallet and his willingness to make intriguing big fights happen. I was skeptical as to whether or not the people at Goldenboy would be able to deliver such a match. I was skeptical as to whether or not they'd be willing to, as they'd been having issues with Ryan, and Ryan's been having issues with his paces, the kind of issues that a guy like Eddie Hearn can reconcile and is more than willing to put on big fights. I've no doubts that if this Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell fight is coming off, it is as a direct result of Eddie Hearn's involvement, not Goldenboy's. Because as far as Goldenboy, what they've been doing is mishandling a situation involving a fighter, one of their fighters,
Ryan.
And you know what? That could result in him going somewhere else or trying to. Ask yourself, is that supposed to be good for business? In heavyweight news, Adam Kownacki had this to say. He says, I want a Hellenius rematch. If not, then Ruiz, Ortiz, or even Wilder. He was quoted as saying, I just got caught with a good shot. He said of the short right hand that put him on the deck in the 4th round of the heavyweight bout at the Barclays Center, Fields ruled it a slip. But Kownacki admits it was more than that. It wasn't ruled as a knockdown, which it was, and it buzzed me a little bit, he recalls. And with your pride and ego hurt, you want to get him back. But with me being buzzed, he caught me with another good 2 shots, put me on my ass. I got back up, then he just let his hands go. Looking back at it now, I wish the referee let it continue and let me go out on my back. But the referee's there to do a job, and I guess it was the right call. He saw me hurt, and he called it right. I'm healthy, and I can fight again soon. If he did let it continue, and I was laid out, it would have been worse, and I might have been hurt. Definitely, after the last fight, I want to make sure my weight is down. It's always a topic of conversation, which sucks, because I don't think that really defines how I'll perform. But I really want to get to a certain weight. With Areola, I was a little bit heavier. I weighed in less, but I cut a lot of water weight just to make sure it was lower than it actually was. This fight, I did it more naturally. I didn't starve myself or do a weight cut. It was my natural weight, and now I'm keeping it around the same weight, making sure that when I fight again later this year or early next year, that it won't be a topic of conversation. And I'll be able to focus on the fight and not losing the weight in camp. It sucks to hear about this weight because I do the right stuff. This fight, too, I was in great shape. Luckily, I have a lot of people backing me and saying that it was all right, so I tried to focus on the positive stuff. It's boxing, and I feel all these negative boxing fans should actually join a boxing gym and see how easy it is. Everybody likes to talk, but if they did it, they'd probably never do it again because it's a very tough sport we're in, especially the heavyweight division, where one punch changes everything. It sucks, but you take it as a lesson. Obviously, I want a rematch, and I think it might happen. Even though this was a WBA eliminator, I don't think he's going to get a shot at Joshua anytime soon because Joshua is trying to have bigger fights first, and he might give away the WBA title. So I think the rematch will probably happen, and that's the fight I want. I want to make sure it was a mistake. Lennox Lewis avenged his losses, so I want to avenge mine too, and hopefully I'll get that shot. If not, I just want to fight the best and make the best fight happen. If it's Andy Ruiz, Luis Ortiz, or even Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, or Anthony Joshua, those are the guys I want right now. I want to start off by saying that I like Adam's matter-of-fact attitude towards the loss. He's not making excuses. He's not trying to pardon himself for what happened. If anything, he's atoning
For the loss.
for what happened. And that's the right attitude to have.
If you're going to try and bounce back.
You know, Adam mentioned all the quips that the boxing fans have been making about what shape he's in, his weight. And I think that if that became a hot topic, a topic of conversation over time, it's as a result of Adam's own comments in reference to why he didn't take the Anthony Joshua fight. I want you to pay attention to something here. Initially, when Adam was first taken out of the running for that Anthony Joshua fight, the story was that Adam was already booked. He was supposed to be having some fight with someone, an opponent that had yet to be announced. That opponent later on became Chris Arreola.
So that worked out.
Sometime later, Adam Kownacki himself was quoted as saying that he was out of shape at the time the offer to him to fight Anthony Joshua was made. And it's for that reason that his weight became a hot topic amongst the boxing fans.
Because he said it was.
It came from him up until the point that Adam Kownacki made those comments about his weight and what shape he was in at the time he received the offer. As far as the boxing fans knew, the Anthony Joshua fight was rejected because he was all booked up to fight someone else. And many boxing fans, myself included, had an adverse reaction to that news that he's all booked up to fight someone else who can't be a world champion, as at the time there were only two, Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. So if you get the opportunity to fight one of those guys, who the hell else could you be fighting that's more important?
That's what I had to say about it.
And per Adam Kownacki's own comments as to why the fight was rejected, the story changed. The story changed from Adam was all booked up, spoken for, and he was going to be fighting somebody else, to Adam Kownacki was out of shape at the time the offer was made, and that's why it was rejected. One way or another, it reflected poorly on Adam as a multi-million-dollar opportunity, a chance to fight for 3 of the 4 major titles in the heavyweight division, could prove quite elusive and difficult to come by for some. So, if such an opportunity should fall in your lap, you should, ideally, make the most of it, and that's not what Adam Kownacki and his team decided to do. Make of that what you will. Now, Adam is on the rebound, having lost to Robert Helenius, and the rematch between them isn't set in stone. It's not guaranteed. Where Adam Kownacki might want another crack at Robert Helenius, what Robert Helenius is talking about is fighting either Andy Ruiz or Luis Ortiz. We talked about it in my previous video.
So maybe Adam doesn't get the rematch.
At least, not next. You know, Adam Kownacki mentioned how all-time great heavyweight Lennox Lewis avenged all his losses. But he didn't avenge them all in the same sequence, you understand. With Oliver McCall, you know, after the loss, some time had passed before Lennox would meet him in the ring yet again. And by the time he did, Oliver had lost the fight to Frank Bruno. I mean, it was several fights later that Lennox and Oliver would meet each other again. It wasn't right away. It wasn't an immediate rematch. Now with Hasim Rahman, that was different. That rematch was an immediate rematch. That is a rematch that took place within 12 months' time. Both fights did. In Adam's situation, it's looking a lot like if he's going to have a rematch with Robert Helenius, it might not be next. You know, Adam's talking about the WBA, their eliminators, what they might order, and how Anthony Joshua might have to come up out of that belt. Now, I don't see that happening. I don't.
No way.
Anthony Joshua is a guy who's worked harder than most to hang on to what world titles he's collected in his professional career, and I don't see him giving one of those world titles away. He's worked so hard to collect them and worked even harder to keep them. I don't view that as a likely scenario for the unified heavyweight champion. And whatever mandates, whatever orders are to come down from the WBA to Anthony Joshua,
Whenever that is.
there's several fights out.
It's not the WBA's time.
In his very next fight, he's got to satisfy his IBF mandatory challenger. After that, he's got to satisfy his WBO mandatory challenger. And if by the time that fight is over, Anthony Joshua is still the unified heavyweight champion,
If he is.
perhaps the WBA themselves will have sorted out their issues with their assembly line of belts, in the heavyweight division. You got Manuel Chaw, the regular champion, Trevor Bryan, the interim champion, and Robert Helenius, the newly crowned gold champion. It's conceivable that the WBA could organize a mini-tournament between all of their trinket title holders. All this talk of a WBA final eliminator could be a segue to an Anthony Joshua fight just as easily as it could be a segue to a fight with the winner of Char versus Bryan, or Char, since he's the regular champion.
Just Manuel Char.
As I've yet to see the WBA order a fight between their full-fledged champion at any given weight and their gold champion. I haven't seen it happen that way yet, lest we forget in the heavyweight division, for a time, Joe Joyce was the WBA's gold champion. Must have let that belt go at some point. But I'll tell you what, I never saw the WBA order Anthony to fight Joe. I never even saw a hint of it potentially happening that way, so it's kind of strange to see all this talk coming from Robert Helenius and Adam Kownacki about the WBA and a final eliminator. That entire situation is very immaterial, and that's largely in part to the WBA's proliferation of belts in just one weight class. And the real takeaway here is that while Adam might want a rematch with Robert Helenius, he may not get one, at least not right away, so he's keeping his options open.